When you're dealing with social anxiety, you want to make friends. That can be really, really challenging. But it doesn't have to be that challenging. In this video, I'm going to share with you 7 locations that make it a lot easier to make friends. And I'm also going to share with you a little known psychological phenomenon that makes it less awkward. So here we go. Hey, it's Seb. I'm a former social anxiety disorder sufferer and a social confidence coach. In the past 2 decades, I've lived abroad, and I've lived long-term in 4 different countries other than my home country, the Netherlands, which means that I've had to start social lives from scratch multiple times, which was very challenging. There were sometimes periods where I wouldn't speak to anyone for days in a row. And my social interaction of the day was maybe like, "Sawadee hop" to the guy in the 7-Eleven. And that's it. So I felt very, very lonely, and it was a real big struggle for me to get this sorted. Now, while I'm not exactly perfect at this, I have discovered a whole bunch of places and locations that make it a lot easier to make friends. And I'm going to share these with you. And some of these have led to casual friends in many different places. Others have led to my long-term best friends. And one of them, my favorite of them all, has led to my amazing girlfriend. Now, obviously, it wasn't just these locations that did that. The main factor still was that I was in the process of overcoming my social anxiety using EFT tapping and other energy psychology techniques, and the help of some brilliant practitioners. That helped me to connect with people. But these locations were just more welcoming, more supportive, easier to make friends. Now, this video doesn't focus on how to go from social anxiety to social confidence. There's other videos for that. But if you stay until the end, I will reveal my ideal way of using these 7 locations to overcome your social anxiety. And I've been coaching people with social anxiety disorder for the past 14 years. I've heard lots and lots of locations and places that my clients would go to that were helpful for them. So I'm not just going to talk about my favorites, but just the favorites of most people overall. Okay, so let's jump in. Strategic location to make friends number 1. Go where there is no or minimal talking required. Examples: yoga, a hiking group, meditation meetup, ecstatic dance, Zumba class. Why would this be helpful? Well, because this way you can participate without having to speak and communicate. And this allows you some time to actually warm up and start to familiarize yourself with the exercise and the environment, and the fear of the unknown is a lot less in this way, and you become then more comfortable with the environment, and this is a good thing. Now, when you go for a whole bunch of times, people will start to give you like little nods of approval. They give you a yoga mat, and like these little gestures of approval that happen as you go somewhere a bunch of time also helps you to feel more comfortable, and so that you eventually can open up. Now, I understand you probably have lots of worries and concerns coming up, like having to introduce yourself, or worries about silence, or not being good at things, or worrying about embarrassing yourself, or that you don't want to go alone, fear of going to a new place, fear of after-event conversation, and so on. But that's all part of the social anxiety problem, and that can be worked through. Okay, I'll get to that later. First, hear me out, and let's discover some of these locations that are actually least scary and most beneficial to you. Now, the truth is, if you're watching this, you're likely dealing with social anxiety, and that means that your brain is perceiving these situations as threatening. And so you're highly likely going to have resistance to doing any of them. And that's okay. That's just your natural inclination to want to stay inside your comfort zone. That's okay. This is not about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone hardcore. Instead, it's about discovering which environments might be best for you to heal and grow and connect. So you can use EFT and other modalities if need be in order to get yourself completely comfortable in that environment. So you can gently expand your comfort zone and meet some nice friends that are really good for you once you're ready. And these environments have amazing benefits. Yoga class. Numerous studies have proven that it reduces the symptoms of stress, depression, anxiety, and trauma, and further that it boosts your self-esteem and your overall mental health. A hiking group. Now, in a hiking group, like in yoga, the focus is on the activity. It's not on you. And you're also in nature, which releases endorphins. And the activity that you're engaging in is reducing your cortisol levels, your stress hormones. So you get a lift in your mood and you get a reduction in your stress, and you can kind of ease into things. And then perhaps after you do it for a while, it becomes easier to have a conversation. Meditation meetup. Now, meditation focuses on the inner experience and less on actual socializing. Now, obviously, there's a mental health benefit, and typically the environment there is one of non-judgment and acceptance. These are part of the spiritual principles that are often practiced by meditation practitioners. Now, if this thought freaks you out because you're like, well, I'm going to come there and it's going to be, uncomfortable and I'll have to introduce myself, you actually just emailed whoever leads the meditation show, so to speak. You could do it from a fake account and say, hey, I have trouble with introductions. Do you guys do these? Because some of them won't. So that's always an option. Ecstatic dance. Now, this is wild and it's absolutely not for everyone, but what it is this. It is a big room of people that are all going nuts to some EDM mix, weird kind of music. Good music. Basically, the idea is there's no talking allowed. So you can't even talk if you want to. And you walk in there and everyone is going crazy. Yeah, there are people lying on the floor in yoga poses. People are jumping up and down, and it's just a crazy place. And what it does is it reduces your cortisol, it increases your serotonin, it's exercise. You're in a room, so there is connection, but there is not because there's not verbal talking. And then there's this trippy kind of healing music that they're playing. There's something special about it. So an opportunity for you to check out. Zumba class. Now here the focus is on the instructor up front, and they're constantly going through the same routine of dance. And so that structure and the same thing over and over and over might give you some soothing. And further, it's quite an intense workout, and that in and of itself causes you to suffer a little bit, right? You're going to suffer physically, and you'll be suffering along with all the people around you, and that is a bonding experience. Further, like many of the others that I just mentioned, this is a community, and being part of a community, even if it's without talking or initially without talking, that in and of itself is very healing. Strategic location to make friends, number 2. Go to where more kind and compassionate people go. For example, volunteer work, spiritual communities, or ultimate frisbee. Now, in spiritual communities, there's often a focus on acceptance of everyone, loving of everyone, because these are spiritual principles that are being practiced. Then a lot of people there know a lot about psychology and personal development because spiritual people really, really work on themselves. And so it's a place of being non-judgmental, and a lot of people have a lot more compassion, and so it's more likely that you'll find kinder, more compassionate and welcoming people there. With volunteer work, you're there to give to others. You're there not for your selfish needs. Well, maybe so you can, brag that you did some volunteer work, but most of the people there are genuinely there because they want to help other people, which tells you that those people are more likely to be kind-hearted and soft and, more understanding and friendly. Ultimate Frisbee is known for its sportsmanship, for its friendly, welcoming, hey, come join us attitude. In soccer, if there's a foul, people that commit the foul say, I didn't do it, right? And here it's like, if they commit a foul, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, here the Frisbee is for you. That's the kind of attitude. So it's very welcome and it's very friendly. Now, in these accepting and warm environments, it's easier for you to relax, calm down, feel accepted, and that makes it easier for you to open up and eventually make friends. Strategic location to make friends, number 3. Go where the focus isn't on you. Examples: book club, group classes like painting, photography, board game meetups, workshops, language exchange classes. Now, a lot of people with social anxiety are dealing with the fear of being the center of attention. Can you relate? If so, leave it in the comments. Now, other people also have this concern of, well, what if they're going to ask me questions about me, right? They don't want to reveal these things. Well, in these kinds of activities, the focus isn't on you. In a book club, the focus is on the book that you've read that you're discussing. In a cooking class, you are focused on what you're in the process of preparing. Board game, it's the board game. And workshop, you're looking at the guy or the girl who's doing the presentation up front, and you're sitting in the audience. And language class, now here indeed the focus will be on you when it's your turn to speak, but the focus isn't on you as a person, the focus is on you as a individual learning a new language. It's more on your learning language skills. So that can be very soothing and very comforting for some people. And this is an environment where it's also expected that you're going to be a bit nervous or anxious, because a lot of people learning a new language are outside their comfort zone. And so when you come there and you're saying, yeah, I feel quite uncomfortable about it, or yeah, this is my first time, I feel quite anxious, I feel quite nervous, you'll be met with understanding and acceptance, and likely people trying to soothe you or share things like, yeah, I know, I feel anxious too, or I felt that way too. Right? So it's a very comforting environment. Strategic location to make friends, number 4. Go where you're expected to be nervous or anxious, and the activity is about overcoming it. Examples: Toastmasters, improv comedy, language exchange, group classes. Now, this can be very helpful when you're at the stage that you're ready to really challenge yourself. Now, in these environments, it's expected that you're going to be anxious. A lot of people are suffering from, I'm afraid that other people are going to see me anxious. Well, here that's likely going to be the case. And even though it's slightly different from usual situations where you're not supposed to be anxious, still you can use this as an opportunity to practice that acceptance of anxiety muscle. Of course, there are lots of triggering situations here, and you can figure out what the triggers are and use these triggers as opportunities to tap on when you're in the comfort of your own home. Now, to be clear, I'm absolutely not a proponent of the face yourself to force your fears approach. That, in my book, is outdated at best. But you can use these opportunities where you know you're going to get anxious as opportunities to use the tapping to work through the triggers, to work your acceptance muscles, and make great progress. But this might not be the first thing that you try, right? This is for when you're a little bit more advanced. The way you go about this is you would work through your triggers just thinking about going to public speaking or improv comedy, and you get yourself as comfortable as possible using the tapping ahead of time. Then when you go there, you can use the finger tapping, and then afterwards you can look at the thoughts and the feelings that came up and work through the triggers. And then each time you go, you work through more triggers until eventually you can do public speaking and you're completely comfortable, or you can do improv comedy and you're completely comfortable. That is the power of combining the best of traditional psychology with EFT tapping. Now, if you want to learn more about how to go from social anxiety to effortless social ease using EFT and the best of psychology, you can go to bit.ly/social confidence now. That is bit.ly/social confidence now. Strategic location to make friends, number 5. Join a group activity. Examples: dance class, guided gym group workout, climbing, biking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing class, Muay Thai, Zumba, ultimate frisbee. Now, some people that struggle with social anxiety struggle more in one-on-one conversations, and they're more comfortable in groups. If that's you, group activities might be great for you. Now, what's great about group activities is that you are going through experiences together. Yeah, obviously. But you're learning things together. You are sharing emotional moments. You are overcoming challenges together. And that forms a bond. Now, aside from that, The activity is what the focus is. It's not on you. Usually there's not that much conversation involved. And if there's conversation involved, it's often not about you, but about describing the activity or getting, exchanging information. So that can be a less threatening environment. And, with activities such as a dance class, it is assumed that you're going to be uncomfortable. It is assumed that you're going to be anxious. And there is a mutual respect among people in these environments for people that are going through it the first time. Why? Because they've gone through it themselves. They know what it feels like. They were very happy when someone was nice to them. And these kinds of group situations usually have communities tied to them. And being part of a community helps you with a sense of identity, it gives you confidence, and it is a environment that provides healing because you're like, I can go here and be part of something. I belong to this gang. Strategic location to make friends, number 6. Set up one-on-one meetings. Now, some people, they don't really like groups, but they prefer one-on-one meetings. Well, if that's you, then here are some options. Use couch surfing, use Bumble BFF, or pay for friendship in the form of Spanish lessons or a therapist. Now, I've traveled quite a bunch of countries and I've lived in different countries, and couch surfing I've used quite a lot. So couch surfing is a website for people that travel or people that like other kinds of cultures. And the way it's set up is you go there, you set up a profile. So in my case, Sebastian from the Netherlands, these are my interests, just a little profile. And then when I go to a different city, I can type in the name of the city and I get all of the people that have a profile listed there. And I can say, hey, I'm looking for a place to sleep for free. And then these people will host you and you can then couch surf. Basically, you're sleeping on their couch. Now, when you go there, they will, I've had people that pick me up from the airport, show me around, introduce me to the hotspots of their location. I've used it just to meet up for coffee because, I'm in Colombia and I'm lonely and I have nobody to meet up with. And, let's just get to know someone. That's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity to meet people. Bumble BFF, I've just heard a bunch of other travelers use that to meet people. I've personally never used it myself. And then in terms of paying for friendship, sometimes it's not easy to meet people. And this is one of the things that I've done. Okay, when I'm in a country, there are certain things that might be cheap, such as getting a salsa class in Colombia. Cost $12 an hour. Okay, great. So I'm going to have a salsa class with that person who's going to come to my house probably every day or a couple of times a week. So now I have someone that I'm slowly starting to become familiar with. That person then tells me about the different kinds of dances that there are. He or she might tell me about the culture that's going on there or things that I should go check out and so on and so forth. And this can then lead to me becoming friends with my salsa teacher. I've become friends with lots of salsa teachers, or other opportunities. They might invite you to meet with their friends. So this is a great opportunity. And finally, a therapist is of course a paid friend in a way, but it comes with tremendous benefits. And this video is not about that, but when you invest your money in a world-class therapist who ideally is also specialized in an energy psychology technique such as tapping, that's going to be one of the best investments you can possibly make. Strategic location to make friends, number 7, your own mind and inner psychology. Now, this is by far the most important location. Now, these strategic locations that I've shared with you, they will make it easier to make friends. But when you're dealing with social anxiety, it will still be a big challenge, right? It'll just be slightly easier. But even for people that don't have social anxiety or minimal social anxiety, it's still challenging. They still need to challenge themselves to go do these things. Not all people, but most people. And so it's really important that you minimize your social anxiety, because the more at ease you are, obviously, the easier it is to actually connect with people and make friends. So, go check out bit.ly/social confidence now. And then what I suggest is that as you're learning about your mind and you're learning about tapping and you're learning about how you can use the tapping to get rid of that perception of threat, you then also go to these strategic locations, maybe pick one of them first, and then keep going to that particular location and use the tapping in order to become totally comfortable in that location. Make that location your comfort zone. All right. And keep going over and over and over and over, because there's also something amazing that will start to happen. Have you ever heard of the mere exposure effect? It's a psychological phenomenon where people tend to prefer things simply because they're familiar with them. The principle suggests that the more we are exposed to something, the more we tend to like it, right? So when you habitually go to that place that you want to become comfortable in, not only are you going to become more comfortable in that space as you use the tapping, you're also going to become more familiar to people automatically, and they are more naturally then going to be inclined to like you and take an interest in you. In my experience, the easiest, or rather least difficult way to make friends when you're dealing with social anxiety is to learn about EFT or any other energy psychology and learn the best of psychology and start applying that as you go to one of those locations that I've just mentioned. Pick one that sounds the least scary or a little scary to you, and that you also have an interest in. And then keep going there over and over and over. Keep using the tapping, and slowly but surely you become more and more comfortable there. You'll become more and more comfortable and familiar with the environment and other people. You know what to expect. It becomes less and less unfamiliar and unknown, and you start to ease into it. And then people are starting to become more and more comfortable and familiar with you. And that ease that is starting to slowly but surely develop can then help you to eventually begin to open up a little bit at a time. So that is really the easiest way to become comfortable in a particular situation from which friendships can then evolve. Now, in closing, I'd like to comfort you in the knowing that you're not alone in finding it difficult to make friends. I find it challenging to make friends. I meet people that travel all over the world, and they report that it's challenging to make friends because it takes time and you can't connect with everyone all the time. But when you're using these tips that I've shared and these locations that I've shared in this video, and you actually go there, you make yourself comfortable over time, then you can start to create a particular comfort zone where you become more and more at ease, from which great friendships can evolve and you can create the social life that you dream of. Now, it is very challenging, but life's biggest challenges hold life's biggest rewards. Hope this was helpful to you.